Take this opportunity to welcome everyone that's joining us here today for our Inspire Change panel. We'll be hearing from our next panel guest, Dr. Vanessa Brzezinski, Ritu Gupta, Maria Pavlikovic-Tovisi, and Siobhan Calderbank. So I look forward to welcoming all of our speakers to panel to the stage. And for those of you that are guests today, if you want to turn your cameras off and feel free to comment, to share in the chat box. And we're going to start right away here. So it is my pleasure to be introducing to you today our panelist, Dr. Vanessa Brzezinski, who is a prominent thought leader towards advancing discipline of space medicine. She is also our 2021 Woman of Inspiration Trailblazer. Welcome, Vanessa. I'll have you take the stage and do a quick introduction.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Monica. Actually, I won Trailblazer 22. It's 2022.
Sorry, 22. I lost a year somehow.
I'm guessing somebody else won 2021. That's why I don't want to overstep. I'm very happy to be here. I have kind of a complex background. My educational background is in biology, genetics, astronomy, astrophysics, medicine. I'm a medical doctor. And currently, after a very long work experience between investment funds and business administration positions and working for NASA as a postdoc researcher, I have now had my company for quite a while, Space Exploration Strategies. I'm a CEO of, we're a team of 12, and we full-time work on the advancement of space medicine. I call myself a futurist of space medicine. I do not hold the traditional views of what space medicine is, and the implications of that as a woman we can talk about later during the panel. But I do have quite a few of interests. I'm a generalist by stance, and very, very proud to be a woman. So I'm very happy to be here. So Monica, please hand it over to somebody else.
Well, thank you very much, Vanessa. Looking forward to your perspectives that you're sharing with us today. It is my pleasure to introduce Ritu Gupta, who is the ambassadress. I love ambassadress, and co-chair of the Gupta Group. Ritu, I'd love you to introduce yourself. You're also our 2022 Woman of Inspiration SupportHER Award winner.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Monica, for everything that you've done with UWN, what you've done for women across Canada and now across the States and hopefully across the world is really amazing. And I just really want to say thank you for this event today. It's so important that we all get a platform to speak. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Ritu Gupta. I am the ambassadress of the Gupta Group. And this morning when I woke up, I wished my dad and my brother and obviously my mom and my siblings Happy Women's Day. But the most important thing for me was to tell my dad and my brother who have supported me from day one. My dad, so I work in a family business. It's real estate, it's hotels, it's construction, it's male dominated. There are no brown people. It was when I grew up in this industry, I was always the youngest, the only woman, the only brown person at the table. And my dad was the one that would always push me forward. And it didn't matter what situation I was in. He would just literally throw me to the wolves and just say, go do it. He didn't give me a manual. He didn't give me instructions, but there was obviously something in him that knew that, not only that I could do it, but he believed in me. And I think that today we're talking about allyship, or we're talking about how to bring men to the conversation. I think it's so important that our men also have that voice, and they also understand how we can't do this alone. Where humanity is one. It's not about men versus women. It's not about black versus white or anything like that. It's about humanity as a whole. And for me, this is why this conversation today is so important, and something that I've done for my entire career is that I've always kind of stood up for women's rights. I've grown up in the business, so I was VP of Sales and Marketing. I was COO. I was CEO, and recently I was chairwoman and ambassadress. So I essentially look over our entire family company. We have 25 hotels, 3 high-rise. We also have VC, and I'm the head of my family's foundation. That is me in a nutshell.
Amazing. We're so happy to have you. And Ritu, my son, who is going to be 17 in July, he sent me Happy Women's Day today, Mom. And I'm like, I created SupportHER because I wanted you to know how valued your role is to support women. and to have other male role models be visible. As a boy, that's so important. So yes, I was full on down with, happy International Women's Day. Thank you for being my support her. So yes, very, very important. So thank you, Ritu.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to this conversation. Okay, so my next introduction is Maria Pavkovic-Tovisi. I finally think I've got your name right.
Yes.
Maria is our 2017 Woman of Inspiration Award recipient. I remember standing on that stage with you in Calgary. We did the white hat. We were in the very beginning stages. And since that time, we've got, expanded to 5 countries and celebrated many, many women. So Maria, I'm super happy that you're here with us today. Maria is the founder and CEO of Macamee College, one of the largest Alberta private vocational colleges. Maria, please introduce yourself.
Monica, I just want to say thank you, and it's an honor to have been part of the history of the Women's Network and what you've built over the last few years since I've been on that stage is pretty awe-inspiring and incredible, and the lives that you're touching and the impact that you're making is really special. So I'm honored to be a part of that. My background is business. I'm a serial entrepreneur. My brother and I started our first company when we were teenagers, and it was snow shoveling in the seniors neighborhood around our house because my parents were immigrants and they couldn't really provide. They provided everything we needed, but not necessarily everything that we'd wanted as children. And you know how children and teenagers can be. And so my brother and I were very entrepreneurial from a young age because we realized that we couldn't just ask them for things. We had to figure out creative ways to attain those things that we wanted. And so it started a bit of an entrepreneurial bug in us. I founded Macamee College in 2001, so more than 2 decades ago. I was 21 at the time. So you can imagine being a 21-year-old female and starting a college and how well that was received when we were in boardrooms and conversations around the seriousness of my business plan and what I wanted to do. Fast forward 2 decades later, we're one of the largest of our kind. We've got thousands of students, hundreds of employees across both Edmonton and Calgary. We've got campuses launching in other parts of Canada, and currently own about 15 different companies around the world. So I love entrepreneurship. I love being involved with it. I love starting new companies. I love mentoring, women and young girls into pursuing their, educational and entrepreneurial dreams. And, my dad has always said, who much is given, much is expected. And they've always been really good at community stewardship and paving the way to make it easier for others to follow as much as possible. And so I'm all for that. And I believe, Monica, you do a great job at that. So I'm just really happy to be here and be a part of that today.
Beautiful. I really love seeing the growth of everything, of all of the women. It's just awe-inspiring, and it actually gives me fuel to continue doing it with every single day, waking up and moving forward. So thank you so much, Maria. I'm looking for the conversation. Siobhan, you were last, but I'm going to tell you, you're going to be first to kick off our panel. So Siobhan Calderbank is our 2019 Woman of Inspiration, Diversity and Equity and Inclusion awardee. She is also one of our national ambassadors and has been an instrumental part of our leadership team with the Universal Women's Network. We really value her contribution that she's been making for the past several years, and we are very fortunate to have her in the Woman Driving Change book. She is an experienced HR executive and founder of the Butterfly Ladies Mentoring Program. So Siobhan, the stage is yours. I'll have you do a quick intro before we begin.
Awesome. Thanks, Monica. And I want to take this opportunity to just thank all of these amazing women that are on the panel today to be able to share their experiences and stories, and to you, Monica, for creating this platform. I think for so many of us, we haven't had the opportunity to always voice our opinions and to talk. And a lot of us just listening to all the profiles have likely been the only ones in the room and have not had that support. And I think this conversation that we're about to have today is so important by getting that support from our allies. And I can tell you from even in my experiences, and it's predominantly in the learning space because I love learning. I'm a huge proponent of learning. I think it's really important that we continue to develop and grow ourselves as well as others. And so I love that space, in the talent space, developing people, as well as attracting and hiring really awesome people to continue their growth and their journey, as well as enhance their experience throughout that time. And for me, I've had some really great opportunities to meet some amazing men who have supported me in my career, who have been there to cheer me along, to provide guidance and coaching, very different coaching actually compared to some of my female mentors. And I'm very grateful for that, because that's really helped to shape my outlook on my own career, the way that I interact with my other male counterparts, as well as even with my own son. And so when he looks at all the work that I've done, and I was telling him recently, I got a message from, I think it was NASA's astrophysics department, to be part of their idea practitioner database. And he just paused and was like, you know what, that's actually really cool. And it was like, in that moment, I could see sort of like this light bulb sort of shift. Like, my mom does some really neat things. And he did pull me aside and say, I'm actually really proud of you for all the stuff that you do, which you don't really hear that much from like a teenager, but it means that they're seeing an evolution and they're seeing more female empowerment. And to hear that from him meant like the world to me. And then this morning I got a call from my husband, who's telling me like, happy International Women's Day. And did you know all these like, stats? And I'm like, okay, you did your research first thing this morning before I even got up to go. But it tells you just the work that you do, and the work that all of these women are doing here really does make a difference. And that's kind of why I went into being the founder of Butterfly Ladies, which is really to provide an opportunity for women that were underrepresented in all different facets to find a mentor to really help support them in their career development, so that they really can be all that they were intended to be.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for the introductions. We're going to jump right in here. We have a lot to cover. I'm going to have an opening question that I know we've probably already talked about briefly in the chat box, but today is International Women's Day. And again, I'm going to, the United Nations Progress of Sustainability Development Goals says that it will take 286 days to close the global gender gap. And we all know that we want to see some improvements in our lifetime, but also pave the way for our future generations and to inspire change. So it's conversations like we're having today, which embrace equality, allyship, and about leadership, how to really move forward, not backwards. And so I want to start the panel off today with, why is it so important? And we'll just have short 30-second answers before we jump into our content today. Why is it so important to you to celebrate women today and every day, Maria?
I mentioned it kind of in our breakout session, but I think it's really being an immigrant and knowing how many people lack the opportunities around the world. It's really important to me to celebrate International Women's Day here today, because so many women can't and don't have this opportunity place that really does not respect women's rights. And so I think it's really important for us to be the voice of some of those women and to champion how women are treated, not just in Canada and here, but globally. And it's a great platform to be able to do that and to share ideas. And for that reason, it's really important to me. I also have a daughter. I only have one child. I have a daughter. And so obviously being the mother of a 12-year-old beautiful little girl, it's really important for me to set an example for her in her life and where she's going to grow.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Maria. And Siobhan, I would love to hear from you next. I'm not putting you last on the list. You're going number 2.
For me, being oftentimes the only in a room or the only Black person in the room, it's very challenging, and not being able to see others that look like you, and being able to celebrate International Women's Day is really an opportunity for all women to feel that sense of solidarity, a sense of inclusion, and a sense of belonging. And having the platform to be able to amplify women's voices is so critical in their ability to be able to be promoted, to be amplified, and to really personify what does it mean to be a woman, and all the amazing things that come with that too. And so I think having us have this opportunity to speak today and every day, because not all women get to speak up, is so important. And this is something why I think we need to continue this beyond just one day a year. It's really 365 days and beyond.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Vanessa.
Yes, thank you, Monica. I just want to say it's 286 years, not 286 days. That would be really nice.
years.
That would be really, really nice. I would be perfectly happy with that. So let's think about what happens on Women's Day. The cliches that you wake up, you have your kids and your husband make you breakfast in bed, something like that might happen. Your kids actually celebrate you. You might get a card. And then we hold panels like these to actually talk about women. So what is it that we're seeing? It's just something that men experience every single day. So the difference is that we just want this symbolism of a day to become the norm. And the point of the day is to just look back in a few years and say, oh, do you remember when we had that day? That was cute. I mean, it's just, it's the symbolism. It's about something that others experience every single day for us to happen something. And this, of course, is in the Western lucky world, of course, like Maria pointed out, it just a flip of a coin where you're going to be born. If we start covering the whole world, then us that we're lucky enough to hold a panel like this, we should amplify, like Siobhan said, our voices to cover the voices of those who haven't had the opportunity to speak up and be celebrated as they should. So to me, today is a matter of a symbol of what is to come, hopefully in 286 days and not 286 years.
Thank you, Vanessa. And probably one of my biggest visions is that we have Woman of Inspiration and we go on a tour, and we actually go on a tour and we really inspire hope and talk and really make changes in the communities to be visible representations of what is possible and to shake it up a bit for those that don't have a voice. So yes,
only an incredible woman like you, Monica, can organize this. So we'll support you no matter what.
Amazing. Okay, thank you. I love to have that support. Ritu, why is it so important to be celebrating today and every day?
It's, I think all of these fabulous women before me have really spelled it out so well that it's not just about the one day. And, as Vanessa said, we do want to look back and say, oh, that was nice that we had that. We no longer need that anymore. And I think that's the goal. The goal is that we no longer need a Women's Day, that there's just equality. So we don't need to have this spotlight and to kind of keep having it ringing loud to everyone to, give us equal opportunity, give us equal pay, give us your board seats, give us C-suite positions. So I completely agree with everyone that spoke before, that it's an important day. It should be every day. And it's also just that messaging. So hopefully one day, maybe our kids or our kids will look back and say, you guys had a Women's Day for what? You didn't have equal rights. I think that all of us have that goal, that we hit the point where women and men are just respected and loved, and humanity can rise and elevate as we should.
Beautiful. Well, this goes into our first embracing equality question. And, we have a lot of questions to ask, and I know we're not going to get through all of them, but, what I really love that we have so many different perspectives from different industries. So I am going to go back to the same question that we asked our prior panel, which was, I would love to know what your biggest challenges are in your industry, and what sort of change would you like to see, or do you see happening in that industry? Maria.
I think education is a little bit maybe more unique than something like oil and gas, for example, or law. Like there's a lot of female leadership in education, which I think is wonderful and I think is great. I think the challenges that we have as female entrepreneurs in general is financial in nature. I found being a part of EO Entrepreneurs Organization and now YPO Young Presidents Organization is that my male counterparts seem to access financial capital a lot easier than my female co-entrepreneurs do. And I've actually spent the last 5 years really investigating why that is, because I couldn't understand, like, if we both have a very good business idea and we have a good business story, why is this person receiving funding and I'm having more struggles, or my female friend is having more struggles? And, it's come down to a lot of things to do with access. We realize that men and women do business very differently. And what I've noticed is that to get good access to capital, you really have to have a great relationship with your banker. The problem is most bankers in that level of position are male, and it's a very male-dominated industry. And it would be very inappropriate for me to start going out for lunches and dinners and golf tournaments and weekend getaways with my male banker, who's also married and I'm married. Or at least that's the perception, right? And so my male counterparts are getting more FaceTime, more relationship, more networking with people who have the ability to approve financial resources for them to grow and expand their business. And so for me, I actually think one of the biggest challenges we're facing in any industry in female leadership as entrepreneurs, maybe not, as employees, is access to capital and trying to figure out ways to get that face time and that relationship building in an appropriate manner.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Maria. And it's true. It's that one-on-one FaceTime with the key stakeholders has always been something that is super important, because I have no doubt that once women's voices are represented and those ideas come to the table, you just need the right person listening with the ability to make that happen. So yes, thank you for bringing that important piece up. It is something, and here's the stat, just saying, it's 1.9% of VC funding goes to women, which is crazy. So thank you, Maria.
So Monica, just to add on that, even in my position over the last 20 years, to the point that I've achieved success, I still struggle with finding those opportunities in those conversations. I can't even imagine what it would be like for startup. I have had to, sadly, lean on my male partners and my male investors and my male accountant instead of our female leadership team to go and break down some of those doors. So that allyship that you were talking about has come in really handy. And it's sad that I have to do that. It's great that I have great support in that area, but I think we need to do better.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, Maria. Siobhan.
For me, I'm in the finance industry, and there's not a lot of female representation, maybe less than like 33% on boards and less than 22% even in the C-suite. But at least the organization that I'm with, I can honestly say they're doing a really great job to really try to break that barrier. But it is a struggle. And what I see is that this all stems from little kids. When you're told in the classroom in elementary school, oh, the boys are better at math, then girls are better at maybe art and homemaking and home ec class, and the boys are better at science. And so that narrative needs to shift. We need to start educating girls from a younger age that it's okay to love numbers, and it's okay to be proud to say that you love numbers and are interested in understanding how your money works. And I think the more we're able to start targeting those younger students and really be able to provide them more education and awareness about the benefits of moving into those industries, the more lucrative it is for them to move in that way. But it's hard, because when you're in a male-dominated field, you look around and you don't see anybody that looks like you don't feel like, one, you belong, and two, even if you want to convince yourself, yes, I do belong, to succeed, because there's another set of barriers and challenges that come with that. And I remember even being in engineering, and that was another one of the fields that many women are not in. And so this is probably a story I've not really told before. When I went into first year engineering and not even being able to use the washrooms on our floor because there were no washrooms for females. You had to go up 2 floors just to be able to use it, which sounds absurd, but this was the case until we decided that, we're not going to take this anymore. And we're going to stand up and put a female sign over the men's washroom, because they had 2 and we had none. And that, to me, it's like, no, that can't happen. So, we just took it over. But it takes sometimes a voice and action. And even if it's small action, for things to start being put in motion and for change to really be driven. So if we don't start advocating from now with our children, our younger children, and start showing them that it's okay to fight for what you want, and you will have the support, not only just from other women, but from men and from the community, then they're not going to be able to succeed, because they're always going to think that there's a bit of a barrier and maybe that they should just hold back. But we're here to let them know that that is not the case. And we're here to let them know that we're breaking down all of those barriers, those glass ceilings, and we're collectively amplifying our voices to make that happen. And this is why I love seeing organizations appointing women as their directors and in the C-suite. And yeah, you may have more women sort of coming in at those entry levels, but we need to start allowing for more promotions and encouraging that to happen. And this is where the talent space comes in creating those opportunities, and even the job descriptions to be more enticing for women to apply, to start moving into those roles too.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Siobhan. Dr. Vanessa, space world, highly
Space
unique.
world.
The
I'm
space-
actually going to invert the question to what kind of obstacles do men overcome? Let's compare it to the norm, unfortunately. If we do think about the space world, as you said, how are we today so at such a fascinating point? Well, let's think about recent history. Cold War. It was just about two very manly men countries trying to prove to each other who can do it first. This masculine drive, as a biologist, it's inherited into the genes of males to prove who's better, who's best, who's bigger, who's stronger, who's more fit. It's from an evolutionary perspective, is perfectly normal. And that drove the entire space program super fast into the right direction. Today, if one of the private space companies were to go into venture capitalist meeting, the meeting would only last 5 minutes if that person were to say, hey, I want to go land on Mars. The funding team would just say, okay, what's the ROI? Not really, there's none. Okay, what are we going to actually do there? Is that going to make us better? Is that going to make us prove something here on Earth? Not really. Okay, meeting's done. This is not getting funded. However, if you were to say that, hey, this country, XYZ, just announced, or there's a rumor that leaked that they are going to Mars in the next 6 years. You know how long that meeting is going to be? At least 3.5 hours. And within 3.5 hours, they will have already planned out how we're going to get to Mars. So the drive that actually leads the space sector has to do with geopolitics, which is driven by men. If those conversations were completely replaced by the mentality of women, and that's where the leadership change between female and male leadership comes in, if females were leading those conversations, we would have considered everything. First of all, look at us. We don't talk over each other. We all have things to say, but we respect each other's space and time to just say what we can. On the other hand, we don't fight each other enough. We are too scared from the mentality that we have to protect each other because of that nurturing and suffered nature that we've had, that we are scared to go against another woman. That we wouldn't be afraid if we are, against an opinion of a man. We're definitely going to talk about it. And that's how productive conversations start. And that's how our fields advance. But because of that nurturing nature that we have, which is in our genes, again, biology, we tend to protect each other, which leads me to the point I was making earlier. Female leadership is completely different from male leadership. And that's why it's so freaking important. The fact that we have those sensitivities and feelings and global views rather than singularity view, both are needed, don't get me wrong, but that full field that we need to see, only women can really see. So if we were to compare the obstacles that men are facing versus women are facing, it's night and day, absolutely night and day. So moving forward, I think we really need to show the world how good female leadership is, what it can bring to the table, what really it can offer, and just a different perspective. It's the same goals, but it can achieve, if not the same, maybe more things than what male leadership can. We can take into account more factors, and those more factors can actually lead further.
Beautiful. Well said, Vanessa. I love your switch on that perspective on the challenges that men face versus women. And this is exactly why we are really elevating women in female leadership roles. But this is the baffling part that I have experienced time and time again. Women in leading companies in senior leadership roles want to deflect that leadership role to say, no, let's put somebody else in there. We need to see the visible leaders at all levels, but we also need to see the women that are at the top levels so we know what is possible, right? But time and time again, I see a lot of deflection happening where women are like, oh, I can't take that spotlight.
You're absolutely right, Monica. If you were to actually analyze the business models and perspectives of female-led versus male-led, you will see that the approach is completely different. And it's normal because we have inherently different approaches. We just need both. That is the concept, that ideally any organization should be equally led by a man and a woman, so that it can reach its full potential. That different perspectives complement each other, and that the power that they have together is incomparable to anything else.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Ritu, so in industry, the construction industry, highly male dominated. So talk to us about, the challenges, the barriers, and what you see as opportunities or what you've experienced. Love to have your insight.
Sure. So in terms of what I've experienced, it's honestly, it's a little sad, to be honest, because I was, and I honestly still am in a lot of scenarios. I'm the only woman. I'm usually the youngest woman, the only woman of color. And I'm surrounded by men that have been in the industry for many, many years. And when I would start to speak, so in one specific example, when I would start to speak at the boardroom, these men, they were all Caucasian, would start speaking at 3 octaves higher than my voice just to drown me out. And this would happen time and time again. It was getting ridiculous to the point that, as a woman, you just watch these men act like idiots. To be honest, and you kind of find it humorous that you're going to go to that length to try to drown me out. But at the end of the day, I think that the challenge that we face is, how do you deal with that in that scenario? I've had so many women come to me to tell me that they've had similar experiences where they feel that their voice isn't heard in the boardroom, where they feel that they're amongst men and no one is really giving them the time of day. And how do you deal with that? Do you yell? Do you scream? What do you do? And I think for me, I'm not the yeller, I'm not the screamer, I'm not someone that will get angry like that, because I think as women, unfortunately, if you do that, you're labeled as a bitch. If you do that, you're labeled as, oh, she's emotional today. You can't, I feel like there's so many more barriers in how we react that for me, the way that I look at it from my personal point of view is that I've always tried to react in a way where I'm going to wait until the room gets quiet, because it eventually will. They will tire out of hearing their own voices. And I know, and I have that belief in myself, that when I speak, I know my idea is correct, that my voice will be heard. And lo and behold, it might take an hour of me sitting there listening to everybody, but that, for me, that kind of mindset always worked. And it's tough. And you really have to give yourself that courage. You have to give yourself that positive self-talk to say, my ideas are worth it. My voice needs to be heard. I deserve a seat at this table. But the second that your mind starts going negative and you start saying, okay, you know what, maybe I actually don't know. Maybe these guys, they've been here for 20 years longer than I have. The second you start doing that, you're kind of already losing the battle. And I think for me, the most important advice that I can give to women, especially women that are dealing with male-dominated industries, is that know that you deserve to be there. Know that your voice needs to be heard. Know that you deserve to be there. And I mean, this story of the 2 male bathrooms, I'm infuriated hearing this on your behalf. That's insane to me. And I'm so glad that you kind of stepped up and took action. So for me, I don't know how public this is going to be, Monica, but I have to share this one story. So in our head office, there was a white male that had a picture on his wall. Apparently, it's a very famous photograph. It's called An American in Italy. And it's a beautiful woman walking across what looks to be construction workers, and they're all hollering at her. They're, making weird gestures. And every time I walk past his office, I look at this and I'm just thinking, okay, you are working in a company where we have female executives, and I find this extremely degrading. And I didn't say anything, and but I walk past it and I'm irritated. So one day I took the sign off, I took a picture off, I moved into my office and I put up Superwoman and the future is female, and I put up all these images. He's a friend of mine, so I could do this, but I also had to have a talk with him to say, your photograph is actually quite offensive for women. He looked at it as a very beautiful romantic gesture, but when I talked to other women in my office, they all said, when I walk past his office, I cringe. And when I walk past his office for that split second, I'm a little uncomfortable. And in his defense, he didn't know. In his defense, it was art, right? He just thought, this is beautiful. But what he didn't realize is that there was all these women that also, they stayed quiet. They didn't take action. They didn't even say, can you take that down? But I felt that in my heart, that they're not going to be okay with it. It just doesn't make sense. And I think, to the earlier point, sometimes you have to be the one to stand up and to take action, because you don't realize if you're feeling a certain way, most likely there's a bunch of people that are feeling exactly like you are.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Ritu, for sharing. And this will be hopefully widely shared, because I think all of the insights and the conversations are going to land in the hands of the people that actually are wanting to drive meaningful change. This is a perfect segue into our next conversation. We are at 7 minutes, so we're going to go through just a minute and a half answer, and then I still want to get to the last rapid fire about leadership and touch on the burnout. So we're going to talk about allyship and the role that men play to really achieve equality. Again, 96% of organizations see progress when men are invited to be part of the solution, versus 30% of organizations where allies are not engaged. So Maria, why is it so critical for SupportHERs to play a crucial role in achieving gender equality?
I think it goes back to that comment earlier that Vanessa mentioned. It's just that women and men do business differently. Women and men think differently. They're motivated differently. And when you can tap into all of that experience and all that learning and knowledge and education, and then use it to your advantage to reach a common goal and a positive outcome, I mean, it's a win-win scenario. I've been very fortunate to have a lot of really great male mentors that have supported me through my journey. I wouldn't be where I am today if it hadn't been for some key guys in my past history, lawyers, accountants, different individuals who stepped up and took an interest in what I was doing and really valued it, and didn't make fun of me or laugh or joke or think it wasn't possible, but really tried to help me along the way. And like I said, I credit a lot of where I am today through that help and support for both men and women. So I think leaving men out of the equation, you're not going to receive the same results. And I think they are an important part of it. And I think that they've been doing it longer too, right? Like, I mean, like you said, we just got the right to vote in this century, technically, right? So, they've been doing it for longer, and they've had mentorship and opportunities for longer. And so that experience can be shared in a really positive and wonderful way.
Thank you so much. Siobhan, I'm going to add just a little bit more to this topic because we know it's important, but what would you like to say if there was a man or, a male support hers listening to this? What advice would you like, or what message would you like to share with our allies as far as the role that they play?
I would say that they need to recognize that they do have a lot of power and influence, and what they say does have a lot of weight because they do hold a lot of the positions of power in organizations. And by participating in the conversation of equity and inclusion, they're actually helping to reframe the way that other men view women and how other women view women for that matter. And the one piece of advice that I would say is when they're looking at providing opportunities for women to advance, don't play the card of I'm going to try to protect you, so I'm not going to give you that position because I think you'd be better suited off because you have kids, and so this role is a little bit fast paced, or maybe you shouldn't take that position that's out in another country because we want to make sure for your safety or for other reasons, so we're going to just not think about promoting you or giving you these great opportunities that are really power opportunities to advance your career. Instead, leave that up to the woman to decide. Just give the opportunities based on their performance and their merit, and then leave it for them to decide what's best for them, as opposed to you trying to decide what's best for them.
Beautiful. Dr. Vanessa.
Yes, thank you. I think the reason that we have International Women's Day today is the lack of education. I think we can all agree, and I don't want this to be a ranting panel, because if we all were to say our stories that we have experienced in our respective fields, it would just take forever, really. What I would like to say is that if I were to have a man who came up to me and really asked me that specific question you said, Monica, I would tell them, educate yourself. Tell me, and not in a derogative way, that sounded bad. What I mean is that ask me questions. How does that make me feel? Ask me about my cycle. I mean, are you aware of the biological implications of what a woman means? Are you aware that in Spain they're giving 3-4 days off every time they start their menstruation? Why isn't this, and there are some countries in the world that they're shamed, put away for those days that they're bleeding. I mean, it's just, we have the most beautiful gift by nature. And instead of being risen up like they were in Sparta, for example, in ancient Greece, that the women were very much valued because they brought life into the world, we bring shame on it. Just education, and educate yourself and educate your sons, and make sure that your sons are going to be the educated gentlemen that are needed in this world so much for our daughters, for our future generation. And hopefully, I'm very much looking forward to seeing this dying down. All the obstacles are going to be common, because we'll always have obstacles, but it won't be a matter of differentiation. It will be a matter of community and being together. Just one last point. When you go out into the solar system and turn around and you take a picture, the first selfie by Voyager, Voyager 1, was something that was called the pale blue dot. It was just seeing ourselves as an entire planet. And it wasn't about anything that differentiates us. We're just a little smarter than the rest of the species, and we took over that pale blue dot. That is all that it is. And having days that celebrate something that should be obvious should be eliminated, completely eliminated. That is my point of view. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vanessa. And Ritu, I know we're at the top of the hour, but I'd love to hear your insights. I know this is something very important to you. So why is it important to invite our male counterparts to conversation, and how do you see that change happening? I'd love your insights.
Sure, I'll keep it really short.